So hello everyone, welcome to this very exciting talk. My name is Dr. Lasker. I'm joined today by Christoph Agten. I'm actually really excited about this. I haven't said this off camera, but I have been a fan for quite a while. I've been watching your journey from a distance, and I'm really pleased to be able to finally have a chat to you properly and get to learn a little bit more about you, as I'm sure a lot of people are. I think there's a lot of people that have shown interest on the LinkedIn profiles and all that kind of thing. So. People are still kind of coming in, which is great news. So before we start, should we do sort of like introductions? Should we do the boring stuff first, Chris? So like, who
Yes,
are you? What
yes,
kind of
yes,
radiologist are you? Where did you train? Tell me about your training.
yes,
That's what I want to
exactly.
know.
Yeah. So my name is Chris, and I did all my residency in Switzerland, all the 5 years, and then I did a research fellowship in musculoskeletal radiology, also in Switzerland. Then a second research fellowship at NYU in New York. Then going back to Switzerland for a clinical fellowship, and then basically from there I was a consultant at the Orthopedic University Hospital for a short while before in 2018 we moved to the UK, to Nottingham specifically, because my wife, she got a subspecialty training position in fetal medicine there. So we moved to the UK. Ever since, I'm a teleradiologist, and because I didn't want to work in the NHS, frankly. And the because my initial setup with the teleradiology was not like full time, it was just like two part-time gigs, and I had some extra time. That's when I started with the YouTube, and it developed from there. And today, I know I'm living in Abu Dhabi since 2.5 years, nearly 3 years, and still doing the same stuff like I did in the UK. So it's always the same, and yeah, I'll keep doing this. And yeah, that's me. So I'm also, by the way, very excited to get to know you in this call. We had some chats before, but I'm looking into getting to know you even better, and I'm also looking forward to your introduction now.
Yeah, I don't know if I can keep up with that one. I mean, okay, so I am a radiologist. I trained in the UK. I've been a consultant for about 5 years. I don't have anything fancy to my name, really. I just like to go to my workplace and come back. But then as time went on, I started to ask myself a few questions, which is what we're going to be talking a bit about today, as to there was that line. I don't know if you've seen that film. It was called "What As Good as It Gets." Do you remember that one of Jack Nicholson? And he was like quite an unwell person at point. At some point, he
Yeah.
was getting better, and I think he's used this line saying, "Look, what if this is as good as it gets?" And that line really stuck with me. I was thinking, you know what? What if this is as good as it gets, or can it get better? Is this what it's meant to be? And that made me really go down this massive journey of reading loads of like self-help books. And I'll be surprised. I mean, maybe we read the same books. It'd be interesting to know what you've read. But there are a lot of books I read, and it just completely rewired my idea of what work is, what life is, what I'm trying to get to, and that kind of thing. Yeah, and that kind of brought me to kind of trying to live a slightly different life. And then I guess somewhere along the line, people started noticing. I did a bit of YouTube as well, started getting invited to do talks, and did a bit of podcasting, which got me into a bit of trouble here and there, which we can also talk about. But yeah, it was an interesting journey. How about yourself?
Yeah, I also had like one particular day. I don't know the exact date, but there was this day when I looked at the numbers. I was a consultant at the time, and I realized today, after 2 hours into the day, I think it was 10 a.m. in the morning, starting at 8, I basically earned my salary for the day, for the day. Basically, if you take the monthly salary, you cut it down, like how much you make a day. So at 10 a.m., I basically had my earnings in, and the rest of the day, I was thinking like, guys, what am I even doing here? Like I'm basically working very hard so that the boss can sit in his office and do, I don't know what he was doing, but anyways, not actually reporting. So that was kind of like a revelation for me, that also at that point I knew, okay, this is not going to be forever. Like I know I don't want to work for somebody else. I'm going to basically work for myself. That was the pivoting point for me. But this was still in Switzerland, so I didn't have any ambitions to do or ideas on what to do or how to get started. This was not the goal. I just knew, okay, I want to try something else. And yeah, so then I started to play around with some ideas, and ultimately I more like fell into the whole journey of entrepreneurship. I didn't really
Mm.
like read as much as books, as I was watching more like YouTube videos. I think that's what got me hooked into this whole mindset thing. And I like that you also talked about like rewiring the brain, because I think this needs to happen in order to get down this route. And it was mainly YouTube for me. So I was watching particularly videos by Sam Ovens. I'm not sure if you come across Sam Ovens.
think I have heard of him. Yeah,
He's
there's quite a
the
few. Yeah.
founder of School. He's the founder of
Oh yes, yes, yeah.
school.com. And before he did the school.com, he was doing consulting.com. He later sold that page. And this is, where a lot of my things that I do in today's, coaching business comes from, like basically following his teaching. So he was, the guy who got me hooked into this whole thing. And then just random YouTube videos. But, in terms of books, I didn't really read like the big ones that I always hear people naming them, like what's it called, like um,
The 4 Hour
I
Work Week
have
is a
some
big one.
there.
Yeah, the 4 Hour Work Week.
Yeah,
Have you heard of that one?
yeah, I heard that one. Yeah, and what's it like? There's very like old ones, like what's it, Thinking Fast,
Rich
and
Dad, Poor Dad. Yeah, Think
yeah, Rich
Fast.
Dad Poor Dad, that one.
Excellent.
Yeah, Think
Yeah,
Fast. Yeah, that one I read.
yeah.
That book I read. But so if I'm reading more like fiction. That's it.
Hmm. I think
So
for
what
me,
I
I
wonder,
was
like,
yeah, go.
yeah, please
Yeah,
go.
go. No, no, carry on.
No, I
Go for
was
it.
wondering, like, you read these books, etc. And were you a consultant already at that point, or was
Yeah,
this
so
still in training?
I think I no, I was reading those books are coming about when I was a consultant, and it was a bit of an odd situation that I ended up taking a job very, very far away, about an hour's drive, and so I didn't really know what to do. It was such a boring drive, and so I ended up getting Audible books. And then as I
Okay.
listed Audible books, and then I was churning through these books so quickly because I had an hour there, an hour back, and then it was just making me think about things I didn't really thought about before. And I'm sure you probably feel the same that when you're doing a medical job or a life, it has a kind of a step ladder. You get into medical school, you do medical school, then you get into subsocial training, then you do that, and you do that, and you just carry on. But then it's when you become a consultant, you suddenly have a bit of choice. You're not getting told you need to do that right now. You need to go do
Mhm.
my paper. You need to do this. And so there's no one telling you what to do. Then what do you do? Where do you go? And so then it kind of this book in particular, which I know people are going to know about, called The 4 Hour Work Week. That one that hit me a little bit was because it was talking about, have you ever thought about the life that you want? And are the things that you're doing going to get you there? And do you really need all the stuff that you think you need? So in your head, you think, okay, I want to live like this consultant I saw, and this person was particularly successful. And of course, that looks amazing. But I realized that there are costs to that. There are massive costs. He was
Mhm.
always so busy.
Mhm.
He always had phone calls. He
Yeah.
never had time to teach. He was always running in and out. And it looks so glamorous, but I realized that I don't know, maybe it's not what I want. And when you've been aiming for something for so long and suddenly someone's saying, hang on, there could be a different way, it really kind of made me start to wonder about, okay, what of that kind of style can I put into my life now? And same way to you, you saw a YouTube video which clearly changed the trajectory of your thinking. Like, do I need to get a good consultant job? Do I need to get private practice? Do I need to write papers? I mean, were there pressures like that that you had along your training in your life?
Yeah. So when I was still in the orthopedic university hospital, there was, pressure to publish. But I was also there to publish, so that's kind of like they went hand in hand. So I was very active. I published over like 40 peer-reviewed articles, so very active researcher. But after I switched into teleradiology and then I started the YouTube, I really realized like I spent so many hours in doing these research papers for maybe then doing an abstract at a conference. And I remember the most ridiculous abstract I ever presented was at ECR in Vienna. Like it, I flew there on a Saturday evening, I believe. I was in the last session on Sunday, on the last day of the conference, and I presented this abstract in front of like 10 people. And of these 10 people, probably seven of the other people were also presenters. So I was basically having spent 2 full days, maybe countless hours presenting or preparing the PowerPoint and talking to like 10 people who nobody really cared about the topic. Anyways, they were just there, and the other 3 people were probably just friends and family. So then I figured this is not really like a very efficient way of conveying information. And you do a YouTube video, and a couple of hundred people watch this. Even if it's just like 200 videos or viewers, like initially that was amazing for me because the contrast was these 10 people at the conference, and the amount of work I had to put in to get the message out or to educate somebody was just not proportional. And so I completely stopped with the academic research. So I said, okay, this is it. Like once I had my accreditation at the University of Zurich, I said, okay, that's it, guys. I'm more or less done. And at that point,
Hmm.
I was also in the teleradiology business too deep, and there was no need to actually do this. So that's how I got rid of the academic side of things. And I liked the way you said this moment when you start to think like as good as it gets, because when I did the LinkedIn post today for also announcing again this podcast, I was writing like, and this is a question many people only start asking when they become a consultant, like you said, because you are on this ladder, you have the residency exams and everything, and suddenly you are in this, you know, de-accelerated situation of a consultant, and you basically have 30 years ahead of you. Like, so you start
Mm.
to wonder, am I going to do this, what I'm doing here, the next 30 years?
Mm.
And I think that's when traditionally people either like just kept doing it. I think that's what many people did. Like they just kept doing it. Was also maybe less pressure in terms of volume. And the other guys, like the top guys, I would call them in Switzerland, especially once they got bored to a certain level. I think at some point you will be bored, and you have to look for alternative pathways. And I think
Mm.
we went into entrepreneurship and education. But I think in Switzerland, some people then start doing MBAs. They start to go into any other like advanced degrees. So there are different ways on how to go there. Is there a particular reason why you then went into education and entrepreneurship, and not maybe let's do an MBA or like some other advanced degree, master in public health?
Yeah, I think it's a similar when you look at masters and MBAs, it felt as though you're still following a very structured path. And I think when you do entrepreneurialism, you suddenly become your own boss. And that was quite nice to be able to sort of just try things and do things. And I mean, to
Mm.
be honest with you, most of my hustles and things have failed remarkably, like so badly. I mean, half of them you don't even know about because they never went anywhere. But I enjoyed that. I really did because I didn't have to wait for permission from someone to try something. I just
Mm.
tried it. And what I suddenly realized that all those kind of feelings of embarrassment you have when you try and do something and then it doesn't work, people forget within a month. Like everyone's forgotten that you tried something and it failed and you're on to the next thing and the next thing. The world moves so fast. So I think I really enjoyed that aspect of it, that there is something here that I don't need to ask to someone else. Like I'm the kind of boss of my destiny on this one and I can learn things and pick up things. And so I think even recently I was watching a video again, YouTube, great place for resources and stuff, but it was talking about writing emails or something like that. And I think, oh, okay, I didn't really understood that emails can make such a big difference to like business and all that kind of stuff. And we do have people on our team that now do that. But I just thought emails are emails. You make an announcement and that's it. Like what else do you need to do? Just tell people you're doing a course. But as I started reading and learning about it, I was like, oh, there's like a skill to this. Like there's something more to this. And I think by having an open mind, I felt as though you start to appreciate people's skills more. And in some ways, it's been good because I think, actually, I'll ask you as well. Like, I think one of the big mistakes I made when I first started to look into try something different and kind of go beyond the unbeaten path or the beyond the beaten path was I tried to do everything myself, like everything, like website design, video editing. I tried to make the slides. I tried to learn new topics, to teach new topics and things like that. And then only after a while you realize that, look, maybe I can stick to what I'm good at and get other people to help me with the things I'm not so good at. And actually, those people are going to be better than me learning for an afternoon about how to write an email. There's people out there whose actual job is to write an email. And so
Yeah.
why not just get them to do it instead of
Yeah.
spending all this time and just concentrate on what I'm good at, which I thought at the time was teaching. Well, I still think I'm good at teaching. And so that's what I concentrate on, trying to make more products and more think about how to make teaching better and how to get people to learn better, especially with like the dawn of AI. I think that I think we can talk about this as well, but I feel like AI is clearly a big deal, and people are very worried about what AI can do, and I get it. But also, like, there's a lot of cool stuff that it can. Like, I literally built an app to help me keep track of my working out, which works specifically for me, for my particular workout,
Mm.
and tells me exactly what I need to do, and all this kind of stuff. And you just build it so quickly. And I think there's such an opportunity to help with teaching as well. Like I like teaching, but then I can't sit with every single person every single day and go through every single case. But then actually using AI, you can build something to do something like that to really like help people. And so I guess my journey was that I didn't feel like I fit in. I don't know if that sounds weird. I don't know if you ever felt that, but I just didn't really feel like I fit in with the idea of research and papers and MBAs and all that kind of stuff. I mean, how about you? Did you ever consider doing those things?
So now, actually, the research stuff for me was more like a means to an end. I didn't really
Mm,
have an intrinsic motivation or like an intrinsic curiosity to find out more about the world, or at least in the scientific sense. When I was, it was funny because when I was approached to become a research fellow at the university hospital they invited me for an interview. So I went there. During my residency, I never did any research. I didn't know how to do citations. Like literally, I had zero idea. So I went into this university department, in the orthopedic hospital, and then we had a chat. And so they wanted to discuss with me if I had any ideas for researching. And so I was so naive that I told them, I think in radiology, everything that's known like has been researched already. That was literally my opinion. I told them that. And then they
At
were
least
kind
you're
of like
honest.
laughing. Like, I said, guys, like we know all the anatomy stuff. Like what you want to do, like what's the point in doing these things? And so then I still went and decided to do this research fellowship. And mainly the reason was because it allowed me to go to America or the United States for 1 year. So this research fellowship was for me basically the goal, because I always wanted to live in New York at least once in my life, and this was the chance to do it. So basically that was my trade-off, where I said, okay, I'm basically stepping away from a immediate consultant position. I go to the research facility, I do the research fellowship, I publish my papers. I have to get the funding for the travel to the United States. I had then funding there, and then basically come back, and then I just finished until I had the accreditation of the university. But it was more like, just do it. I didn't really have like a solid strategy behind it. So I was just doing whatever they told me to do, and I was getting efficient at doing so. So that's why my research, if you look at my research topics, all over the board, like it's across every joint, across every modality, like a little bit MRI heavy, but no like strategy, no build up. And if you want to be or if you are a good researcher, you have one topic, and that's where you dig in and you build up on your paper. You basically start citing yourself all the time, and that's when you then become the well-known guy in that particular topic. I call this a sniper approach. So you're really very good in one particular niche, whereas I was just like this hip and whatever. So this was basically this not like pure dedication to advanced science. And I mean, it's good, because I think I was wondering, since you mentioned you had like these different endeavors and you didn't really fit, this sense of not fitting in. If you started these side hustles, even the initial ones that potentially failed, did you need permission? Like, I don't know how it is in the NHS, because in Switzerland you cannot just start something on the side if you work
Oh,
full time.
really?
So there are certain rules you have to obey.
Okay. Yeah.
So I wonder, like, did you
I
need
mean,
permission, or you just did it and not
it
bothered
depends on what
asking?
you do, I guess, because I think with the ones that I did, it was like art. I tried to sell. I
Okay.
made this art thing where it was like Islamic calligraphy, but it was a QR code. And so if you
Yeah.
scan the calligraphy, it would tell you the meaning of what the word meant and stuff like that. So I did all these really small things. And because they weren't health related, I don't think anyone's too bothered by it. And they weren't like big businesses, but what I noticed that each little thing that I did helped me learn a little bit more about how to sell,
Mm.
how to actually produce a product. So for the first website, it was a website I don't know if people know this, but he ran a website called Donny Radiology. And Donny Radiology was a WordPress website. I never heard of WordPress before, but I started playing with it. And one of the things I used to get asked a lot about is how to get into radiology. So I made this website to try and help people get into radiology. I had everything I knew about how to get in, absolutely everything, all the book recommendations, everything like that. So that helped me learn how to do websites. And then the thing about the
Mhm.
art helped me learn how to like make a product and sell it online. And then as time goes on, you try a lot of different things, and then you learn that, and then eventually you get to something. I feel like everything builds to something eventually, and you're not entirely sure where it is. And even where I am right now, I don't know if this is it, or is it going to build to the next thing, or now I've done something. If I have another idea, it'd be so quick for me to be able to get this going because I've already done
Mhm.
it so many
Mhm.
times. Like how many websites I've made over the years. It's crazy. It's just
And it's
crazy.
getting easier and easier also with
Yeah,
AI
yeah,
today. Like it's
exactly.
literally one a day. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like everything is so much
Interesting.
easier. So I think that yeah, we don't need permission per se. And I have noticed that a lot of junior doctors now do a lot of aesthetic medicine where they do injections and Botoxes into
Hmm.
people's
Hmm.
faces. And I think it's not that you're not allowed to do it. I think people look down on it. And I think that's the shame. That's a shame that I think that people will look at someone who starts a business on the side like aesthetic medicine and look down on them for doing that because for a lot of people it
So they
feels
do
like
the
they're
injections on the side as a side hustle. Like,
yeah, yeah. They'll like go
okay,
to a clinic or
interesting.
book out a place, and you'll see them on Instagram. They'll talk about it. I mean, they've got
Okay.
fantastic faces because they've been doing it to themselves. I don't know how, but they're on Instagram. They're talking about it, and for me, I think it's great. I think it's a good idea because look, ultimately, you got to do something that you enjoy. If it can be get a bit boring like doing this, and I know it's gonna be unpopular, but I think recently someone called me up and they said, "Look, I really don't know what subspecialty to do. What should I do?" And I said, "It's up to you. Like, if you found anything particularly interesting." And they said they found MSK interesting, but doesn't it get a bit boring after a while? And I had to say, look, everything gets a bit boring after a while. Like, I mean, after the thousandth knee or the thousandth ACL tear and saying the same pivot shift injury, like how interesting is it going to be? I mean, yes, out of maybe 100 scans, you might get one that is, wow, that's quite interesting. You start reading about it, learning about it, but the most of it is going to be the standard thing. So for me, this is important that I had other things outside that were actually
Mhm.
really interesting, like really like got my head sort of spinning and thinking and wondering about, yeah, like what if I did this? What if I tinkered with this? What happens next if I do this particular thing and just watch what the
Mhm.
results are and stuff like that.
So basically,
Mm,
just getting skills from the separate endeavors that are building up on each other and ultimately led to what you're doing now with radiology
yeah.
seminars. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for yourself, like you must have had to take some steps toward becoming a teacher or learning how to teach because teaching is a skill. You can't just walk up to someone and say, "This is how you do it." You got to understand like where someone's coming from and understand like the steps that you took to get to the point that you're at, and then kind of throw the breadcrumbs behind and show, look, this is, I remember thinking this. That's not what it is because of this, this, this. These are the mistakes I made. And that's what I found to be something I learned about teaching. And sorry, I just want to say that one thing I noticed is that to teach in medicine, usually you need to have the accolades of being a professor of something or be associated with some sort of like big institution. And I knew very quickly that I probably won't fit that mold. And if I was going to do something,
Yeah.
I probably need to do it on my own. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I essentially made my own company and then called myself a lecturer. And then ever since that, people started liking the things I was doing, and then that kind of lecturer thing stuck. And now you get invited to do lecturing the kind of the way I wanted to. And maybe that shows a different path to the ultimate goal of being able to teach and things. But how about yourself? Like, how
Yeah.
did you decide that this is what you're going to do?
I mean, it's the internet that really opens the opportunities there because if you think about, before the widespread use of internet, how do people learn? They have to go to conferences, they have to read books and articles, and who is doing this? These are the professors and the chairs of departments that are publishing or using like fellows to get their own name also published. So I think that's how this whole pyramid started coming together with these with the elite. Let's call them the elite. That basically the old gang or the Resnick gang. We can also call them the Resnick gang,
Yeah.
especially in MSK. But I think the internet just opens this up now for you, for me, as educators going into this space and making a name for ourselves. And like you, getting invited and speak at conferences, etc., is something that is quite unusual. Like if you come from the YouTube route or like from this
Yes. Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, when you mentioned like the skill, the teaching skill. So I never really did like formal training in how to teach. I think it's basically just something I enjoyed, even as a resident teaching the young residents, then as a young consultant teaching the fellows, and then when I moved into teleradiology, for me this sudden distance from being in a hospital with people around, going to home office work from 2018 onwards. So I was kind of like missing a little bit the interpersonal connections in some way, although I'm getting along quite well. But I still was missing like some interaction. So that's I think the YouTube video and then later on the coaching was for me one way to connect with people. And because I enjoyed and always enjoyed it, I think I have somewhat like a passion for it. And I think some of it might be also, I don't want to say, yeah, I think, but still, yeah, talent in a way. I think you have to have, the gift to explain things in a way that other people understand, whether you can learn this. But where would you even learn this? I don't know, like, I don't have, there's not like a book how to teach radiology properly or something like this. Maybe that's, it's
Something
hard
you
to
should
put in
do.
words. Yeah, maybe,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. And so basically, I mean, the YouTube videos, it's funny because I started out with the YouTube videos and the idea for me at the time was basically, okay, I need more teleradiology contracts. So I start YouTube. I present myself as the expert with the idea that other hospitals and private practices in Switzerland specifically would, see that. And then, okay, with this guy, we want to work together and then send me their studies, which, well, to some degree it worked, but I think it then took the different way with the coaching as its own business. But that was the initial goal with the YouTube stuff. And while doing these videos, the comments in the under the videos were so that they were very positive, to some degree, surprisingly, because I was not really expecting too much. I liked editing videos, and I just liked the process of learning also a new skill, like you mentioned. And then ultimately, people started enjoying this more, and then from one build, I built also one step on the other, like you mentioned before, with different skills, coaching, building home pages, starting to learn about, even ads, the whole marketing thing, email, building a funnel, like,
Yeah.
for the most part, I didn't know what is a funnel, like, so
Yeah.
simple, basic marketing things that now with AI, it's getting so easy. And I think that's also maybe some of the viewers are interested in, like, what can they do, or should they do some side hustle like we did, like. And that's something I want to ask you, like, who do you think should go into some side business, like, what do you think?
Yeah. I think, you know what, it just depends on where this, and this is what I got from the 4 hour work week. It was more of the idea about if if things were easy, what would it look like? What would it look like? Well, if everything was easy. And so one of the things that I thought would be that I like to teach. And so if this was easy, what would it look like? And like you said, YouTube was just an easy thing to do. It was such an easy thing to do. And so I decided that I was going to go on YouTube as well and start trying to get good at doing YouTube videos. And I literally, I don't even want to look at my phone and how much time I spend on YouTube, but I spend a huge amount of time on YouTube. And I think I watched some videos of yourself as well, and I thought, oh, it's a really good way to like teach. Maybe I should just do this. And again, like yourself, the comments were very useful. And one of the things that I came up from my teaching, I used to do for about an hour on Facebook, especially during the pandemic. And then that's when I got invited to do Collective Minds. And Collective Minds, where I really started honing in. I started noticing what people were saying, speak slower. Oh, can you just show us that again? And I started understanding, like, okay, this is what people want to see. And I did one a month for almost 3 years. So over 3 years, I got kind of good at this kind of thing. So to answer your question about who should do it, I think you got to ask yourself, where do you want to be? Like genuinely, like just dream as big as you want, as crazy as you want. What is it you want to be doing? And so I think in my head, I imagine myself to be like a really old man, waking up in the morning, kind of doing some coaching for a bit, doing some teaching for a bit, and then going to play chess in the park. And that literally is the dream. So then I'm thinking, how am I going to get to this dream? I can't just keep doing what I'm doing right now and imagine to become this old dude that does consulting and some coaching and does some teaching and then goes to play chess in the park. I've got to somehow make that happen. So actually, I'm in the middle of about to take on chess lessons, which is part of the big idea. But
Oh, nice.
yeah, but that's the thing. Like, I think what I feel is that people can be a bit stuck in the moment, and I don't think they
Yeah.
really think about where's this going to. And as soon as you have like it doesn't have to be a solid plan. I'm not saying that you got to be
Mhm.
like a visionary and say like I'm going to go to the moon or something like that, but just like a loose plan.
Yeah.
Like I want life to look like this, and that would be nice. How am I going to
Yeah, I
get there?
always
That's
tell
what I
people
want.
they should have a 18 months plan and a 5 year plan. So that's basically
Mm,
the time frame I try to work with, like having a 18 months plan, which can be quite concrete. So 18 months is not too far out, and then more like a longer term perspective, maybe 5 years. 10 years, I feel already 10 years is so far out. Like, I find it difficult to imagine where I will be in 10 years. But I think 18 years, I have a very good understanding. 5 years, it gets vague, but you need to have a direction where you go into. And I like what you said, like you need to really think about what you want. And I think that's also maybe something for the viewers or the listeners to take away from this, that you really need to ask yourself, who do you want to become, like, or where you want to be, let's say in 5 years, or even like going bigger, 10 years, or when you're an old man,
mm.
like you said. And because that's also something that was one of the biggest shifts for me. That's what I learned from Sam Ovens. He must have learned it from somebody else, but the way he explained it, basically, you have to first to in your mind become the person you want to be, and only then you start to actually do the actions to bring you there. And I think he
Mm.
explained this very
So
nicely.
true.
So basically, you have a set, like your normal baseline. So that's where you feel comfortable, and this is what most people are at the moment. Like you're a consultant, you have family, you just get along with the days. You have this baseline. Whenever something, let's say financially, drags you down, like you lose your job or whatever happens, you will do whatever you can to reach back to the baseline, right? So you will never
Mm.
accept this. You suddenly have no job, or I don't know, like you will fight very hard to get back to this. But the same happens in the other way. Like if your mindset is here on this base level and you would start to increase or suddenly you have more money or but you're not really ready, then you will just self-sabotage yourself to come down to this level
Mm,
again. So what needs to happen in your mind is first you need to raise your internal level. But then you're down here, but your internal in your mind you're up here, and then you start really doing whatever you can to really push into this direction. And I think this is a metaphor that helped me also, doing the weekends, doing the nights or the late night shifts, creating and editing videos, doing the coaching things, because there's a lot of hard work that's required to get to the point where you are, where I am. And I think that's not something you can do if you just think, oh, just going to try. So, the mindset plays a big role in entrepreneurship.
yeah, I think so. But I think it's also, yeah, I think as well, it's just the idea that things could be better or things could be different. And what can I do to make it different? Because like you said, that you've got this baseline of being a consultant and you kind of know where that is. And if you said to yourself, okay, if I keep doing this, what's life going to look like in 10 years? You know what it's going
Hmm.
to be like. You've seen
Yeah,
it like hundreds of times, multiple
exactly.
examples of what it's going to look
Yeah.
like. But then that question is like, what if it could be different? Like, what if something else would happen? What if I tried something? And I think that's one. I think maybe having a curiosity for what life can offer, because I think as doctors, one thing I've noticed that we kind of get really pegged into the idea that that's all we do, and that's it, and that's all. That's as far as we're going to go. But I recently started to really kind of do exactly what you said, to just think really far out the box, trying to put myself into a different idea about where could I be. And so I recently did this course on how to do stand-up comedy. And it's not that I really wanted to
Nice.
be a stand-up comic, but I just wanted to know what they do because I'm quite a fan of stand-up comedy. I find it so interesting.
Yeah.
And how do people do it? And I learned so much that actually helped me, like I feel like helped me teach better because it suddenly realized actually doing a stand-up set is not that different from doing a whole day teaching session. You are saying the same thing. Sometimes you've got the same joke and you know they're going to laugh when you say this particular thing. And so they're not that different. And you start to understand that there's so many like other things that are going in life. And so during that, I met this. I became friends with this lady called Nikki. Oh, you could look her up, Nikki Fagbemi. She was an actress, sickle cell anemia, and she's a big advocate for sickle cell anemia. And she's done her own movie. I think one of the ladies was like this famous opera singer, something de Botton, Meal de Botton or something. So you just meet these people, and you think like, I would never have met you had I just gone to
Yeah.
work and back. I would never have ever cross paths with someone like yourself. But because you're kind of trying this random thing and you're talking to people, seeing what they're up to, seeing what's going on, it completely opens your mind as to like the possibilities of where life could be and how rich life can is. And I think that's what I think entrepreneurialism and kind of pushing the boat and trying to be a bit curious about what things could happen can give you like a real kind of enjoyment as to this is not as good as it gets. There's so many things to get
Mhm.
involved with. Learn chess, learn to act, go learn to do comedy, go learn piano, go learn all these things. Like, why wait till retirement for this stuff? There was a concept in this book, the 4 Hour Work Week, where he was talking about taking mini retirements, where you kind of you don't retire, you just take a little bit of time off for
What
a
do you mean,
bit.
like mini retirements?
Yeah, mini
Like,
retirement. So
oh,
you're not
so temporal,
retiring.
like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, temporary time off. And you just take temporary time off to do whatever it is you
Yeah.
need to do, and then come back to work, and then do another temporary time
Nice.
off a bit later. And I just came back from my temporary time off of 6 months.
Really?
Yeah, it was
Wow.
nice. Yeah, it
Amazing.
was nice. Yeah, it was really good. I was off from June till probably January this year, and it was
Wow.
different. Like I was just getting up to like random stuff, just going to the gym, talking to people,
Amazing.
seeing what they're up to, and then this guy like one of the things I got involved with was his meal prep business. So this guy who was in the gym, I was speaking to him, and one of the things I realized and I learned from being an entrepreneur is that I can't do everything, but I think there are some things that people assume that we should do. So people would say that, look, you as an adult, you need to cook, you need to clean, you need to clean, yeah, you need to cook, you need to clean your house, and that makes you an adult. And I started thinking to myself, like, if I can outsource my business, like, how much of my life could I outsource? Is that a weird thing to ask? And so I started getting a meal prep company to send my food to my house because I want to try and look after myself. And then I met this guy that runs a meal prep company. So I went to visit his meal prep company. And then at some point, there was the opportunity to invest in this meal prep company. I thought, okay, look, I'll invest in your company if you give me free food. And he was like, yeah, 100%. So I get the free food.
Oh, that's good. That's a good deal.
It's a nice deal, right? So, but it was
Yeah.
just the idea of just trying to see what is out there. What does the world offer? What's going on with people? It's not
Mm,
just
mm.
about being a doctor per se. I think we've probably gone down the idea of like, yes, became an entrepreneur within medicine. And actually, in truth, the only thing that really worked for me was being entrepreneurial in medicine. But there are so many things to be entrepreneurial about, and I didn't even know that there were so many things to
Mhm.
get up to until you start seeing these places and doing these things.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So, but
Yeah.
what was then your main motivation to actually go into this? You mentioned like you didn't fit in, or didn't feel like you fit in, and was it more like to get financially free or independent, to get the freedom, or was it just to try different things, like just out of the to get the experience?
So I think for me, I mean, when I first started working, I thought financial, like that's it. I want to make enough that I'm going to be comfortable and I never have to think about this again. But then this book again started making me think like, okay, have I ever defined what it is that I want? Like, what is it that I actually
Mhm.
want from my
You mean
life? And
the
so,
4 day
yeah, the
work week,
4 hour
or
work
the
week. Yeah.
4 hour work week? Yeah.
And then there's another guy called, I think he's written, I Can Teach You to Be Rich. That's another one where he talks about being very focused on what you spend on and then don't spend on things that don't mean anything to you. So, for example, if I was into watches, I'd buy a fancy watch. But if I'm not into watches, why would I buy that fancy watch? Like, I have to really be into a watch to get a watch. Otherwise, I'm not going to get that watch. And so he's trying to get you to understand that, like, don't buy things because people are telling you that this is what
Mm.
you do when you've got money. Do things because you want to do it. And so when I started really focusing on, look, these are my core principles. Like I want a roof over my head, food on my table, and kids to go to a decent school. That's what I care about. Once those things are done, everything else is bonus. Everything else is bonus. And after that, I started to notice that life is actually quite nice. Like I can start to think about things and do other things, not thinking about, oh, I've got this deadline, I've got 20 scans to do, I've got this to do, I've got that to do, I've got to write this paper, I've got to email this person. Like that was all gone. And then again, outsourcing. I got a PA. And it sounds crazy. And I never thought I'd have a PA in my life. But having a personal assistant to be able to, and yeah, and they're an online personal assistant, but just deal with the emails, like just reply to that person, organize this taxi thing. It's really small stuff, but it just makes, I don't think you need that much to be able to get that, like a food come into your house. And I don't think you need that much to be able to have someone on the internet on the other side of the world look after some of your emails and some of the messaging that comes through. And it's not until you think like that that you start to do that. And yeah, I think the goal initially was financial. I mean, I'm not going to lie, of course it was. But as time went on, it wasn't about the finances. It's about what can I? It's a bad phrase. What can I get away with? What can I
Yeah,
get away with?
it's about freedom, isn't it? Like the
Yes. Yeah.
flexibility and freedom, yeah, which is
Yeah.
ultimately what money gets you. I mean, it's the same for me. I think the main value that I get out of entrepreneurship is freedom and flexibility. That's it. So basically, being my own boss, not having to think I'm trading my time for money. I think that's a big thing for many people. Once you start thinking about it, you're basically trading time, your life, basically you're trading your life for money, which is of course a bad deal. I think that's the freedom for me is the main aspect. Being able to go to school with the kids, pick them up, being there for them. Working, going on holidays when I want, working when I want, or not working when I want. And but it's also interesting because there was a point, especially in teleradiology. I'm not sure if you were involved in teleradiology at all, but in teleradiology, as you get paid per scan, it can create this fear of missing out. So once you start not
Oh,
reporting,
100%. 100%.
you start to think, oh man, I'm not making any money. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
I call it the money trap. So, but for me, there was then, it got to a point where you really start thinking, oh my, if I take a week off, then I'm not making any money. But once you
Mm.
start realizing, if I don't report, I actually get time for other stuff. So I think it's just the same thing, but you just have a different perspective. And I think that
Yeah.
that's what actually the entrepreneurship allowed me to do and to achieve, to get to the point where I can decide to do what I want when I want to do it. So I think that's
I have to
the
say
big thing for me.
that's the funny thing you said. I remember feeling that like every time there was dead time, I felt like I needed to do more work. And even like if my friends were meeting up for dinner, I'd be like, okay, I could meet up with you guys for dinner, or I could sit here and do some more work, and I'm going to do some more
Yeah,
work. And you start to realize that it's actually kind of unsustainable. Like, you start
yeah,
thinking, what am I doing this for? Like, if I don't have the time to
exactly.
go
Yeah,
see my friend who wants to meet up, who I don't get to see very often, and I'd rather look at someone's knee, is that really a good trade-off? And then
yeah,
that shift has to happen at some point, like remembering what I'm doing this for. Like, why am I doing this?
yeah,
It's not
yeah,
so that I could
exactly.
do more. It's to understand
Yeah,
when is enough, right? And I think that's a difficult question. Like, when is enough enough? Like, when do you stop all this? You know? And
Yeah, I
that's
mean, you
something,
touched upon it, like house over the roof, kids to good school. I think caring for the family, and then you put something on the side for retirement. That's it. So,
mm,
but I think you get lifestyle creep is a thing, so it happens, and
oh,
it's
100%. Yeah, it can
especially
be
here in
addictive.
the UAE.
Yeah, I can imagine. Sometimes I remember looking at something and I'd be like, I can never do that. And now I'm like, okay, if I did this many scans, I could probably do that. So yes,
Yeah,
that's going to
yeah,
cost me 2 hours of my life. I'll do it. So
yeah.
yeah, it can be a challenge, isn't it? I mean, coming on to that, like where it can be very stressful being an entrepreneur or doing your own business and doing all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. How do you wind down? Because someone out there might say, yeah, this is for me, and then they're going to go for it, and then they're
Yeah,
going to find it difficult. So
I think
what would
it's
you say to them?
for me that's sometimes a bit challenging. I think the borders between private life and work life are kind of like blurry. It's not like a hard thing, especially for me as I'm working from home. So I'm in my office at home. This is where I spend basically the whole day, and so the borders are blurry. And I think the separation is much easier if you go to the hospital, you work there, you go home, finished. And separation is something I still need to work on. So to switch off the mind and just say, okay, I'm done for the day. I feel that quite tricky. I have to admit from time to time because my brain is always like like and you do whatever, and then suddenly it's 10 p.m. in the evening. You have to think, okay, this would be a good idea to create an app that can do this, and then the next day you start doing this. So my mind jumps back and forth, and I always have these like um, entrepreneurial seizures in a way that are basically just distracting me from my main mission because I should basically just
Mm,
do teleradiology, coaching, finish. That's all I need to do.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I get distracted, but partly because I like doing it, and I think my nature is more. I'm a creator. I need to create stuff. I need to make stuff. Maybe even more so than the entrepreneur side of things. Or the business. I think I feel I'm more in the creator space rather than the pure business space. But I mean, I think it's a good skill set to be, or it's a good idea to have some form of skills that are what's it called, like in English, translational, like that you can apply to other areas outside of medicine or radiology in particular. If we think about what might be happening with AI, and I think that's what a lot of people are also interested in what should they do if AI takes over? Suddenly,
Mm,
their salary gets reduced because the AI needs to get paid. They need less radiologists. There will be. It's my pessimistic view that there will be competition for less jobs because AI will automate some of them. So I think that's something maybe that we can spend a couple of minutes on
yeah.
discussing. Like, what would you advise um, the listeners or the viewers, how can or should they prepare, or what would be a good first skill to get started if somebody wants to say, okay, I want to diversify, I don't want to have all my eggs
Mm.
in the radiology basket? Like, what would you advise to a person like this?
I think in the beginning, anyway, it's just trying to. I mean, I found reading very good, but obviously YouTube is a great place to learn things. So whatever you do, try and become like a sponge and take everything around you and learn as many things as possible. Because
I love
I
that. Yeah.
I think that the thing about AI, and I completely agree that there probably will be a point where it will do the inevitable, take over everything. But I think as long as there's a human element to healthcare, there's going to be a role to having doctors and radiologists and that kind of thing. But there are also things about being a human that can only be done by human beings. And so like you're already seeing this, it's not new that you can have AI music. Like AI music's not something we've never heard. In the last year, you can type in, I think we were chilling with my friends and he had this little corgi dog. So I typed in, write a song about a corgi dog, make it a rap, gangster rap. So the gangster rap song came out about this corgi dog. And it was
Oh,
funny. We all laughed and we started making songs about each other. And it was really good sound. It was like proper production level songs. But
okay.
then ultimately, you still would rather listen to Eminem. You just would,
Yeah.
because you appreciate what humans can do and what humans can get up to. And the same as that when you watch a movie, like, of course, this is production central. You've got cameras and angles and filters and all the kind of stuff and sound and audio. But people also like to go to theatre. They like to go to theatre
Yeah.
because they like to see people do the same thing live on stage. And I think we as humans, you've got to sort of see how big the world is and get involved in lots of things. And I often think to myself, like, I didn't know when I came to radiology that life was going to be like this. I didn't know that I'd be able to sit at home and do enough and then be able to chill and go to the gym and start all these other things. I did it because it was something to do and I had to do something. And I thought this is the most interesting thing. but you can't predict these things. But if you have a wide interest in stuff, there may be something that comes up that can either combine things together and become quite special. And I'm not saying I'm special, but what I'm saying is that I've done a comedy course, and now I know how to do. I mean, I'm not saying I'm funny, but I know how jokes work. So then, therefore, I also like to do videos. So then, I'm also a radiologist. So if you put video, radiology, comedy together, then you could have some. You don't have to be the funniest guy in the world. You just got to be funnier than the next guy. And you don't have to be the best video in the world.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
just got to be a better video than the other guy. So then all of a sudden, a whole lot of below average becomes quite nice and quite special.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people miss, that they should just do loads of things. I really am an advocate for learning. And with the children and my wife, I literally say to them, like, look, if you want to pick up a new skill, you want to go to a new course, you want to learn a thing, blank check, do whatever it is, I'll pay for it. So like kid now is trying to do like, oh, she's so crazy, like saxophone, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, piano, clarinet. My wife is doing violin. My son doesn't do anything. He doesn't do anything. He'd rather just sit there and watch TV, to be honest with you. But I'm trying to encourage them to be like, look, the world is so
Yeah.
big, and AI may take over everything, but it can't take over the human bits of life where
Yeah.
you learn stuff
Maybe
and do
it
stuff. Yeah,
pushes the humans back to become more human.
I think
Also,
so.
a little bit.
I
Yeah.
think so because I think that look, ultimately the people who are making these AI models are living their dream. Because the guys who are running companies, Elon, and I mean, I'm picking on Elon because anyway. So like these guys, the ideal thing they want is someone to be a robot, come in, never get sick, and just do the work all day. That's their dream. That's what that would be
Of
exactly what they
course. Yeah.
want, right? That would be 100%. But then what you're trying to do is get humans to be robots in the meantime. Just pick this up, put that here, fill out this, fill out that. But if you can take away those bits, the robot bits of the job, then you're left with the human bits. And I think that's where something special could arise. I mean, I can't predict the future, but I think something special will come there. And I think a lot of younger people who think about coming to radiology, they often ask me, should I go into radiology? I have no idea what AI, AI might take over. And I say to them, listen, at some point you've got to make a choice. Like we all got to make our bet. We all got to go for something. There's no point in trying to predict everything.
Yeah.
Most things are unpredictable, and they've been unpredictable for years. When I was growing, people were telling me cardiothoracics is the one. If you do cardiothoracics,
Okay.
you are the top dog. And then endovascular procedures, cardiologists are doing the IR stuff. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, cardiovascular is just, I mean, cardiothoracics is just a thing. And so you just can't predict what the future holds. You just got to be a bit open to it, and at some point make some choices, but don't
But do you
base your
recommend?
personality on
So,
it.
if they
Mm,
ask you, should they go into radiology? What you say? Because I can't
mm.
full-heartedly tell people to go into radiology. I don't feel it's a
Really, I
safe
don't
bet.
know.
At least not if
I
they
think,
not if they expect it to be the way they observe it today. It's it's going to be called radiologist, but it's going to be a completely different
yeah,
job altogether.
I agree. I think it's going to be completely different, and I think that you have to try and obviously try and predict as much as what you think it could be like, and then at some point you've got to make a choice. And even within radiology, like when I was going into radiology, people were saying, "Oh, they're going to outsource everything to other places. There'll be no work." Like before AI came along, there'll be no work. There'll be nothing to do. But as time's gone on, like let's say they said to me, Imran, you don't need to report anymore. Then I'll do the ultrasound for a bit. Then as soon as they say you can't do ultrasound for a bit, then I'll do the interventional stuff for a bit. And as soon as they say no, I don't want to do that, then fine, I'll open a clinic and chat to people all day. You know what I mean? Like you
Just being flexible and
be flexible. It's
open-minded.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
As in,
yeah.
I feel like people put too much of the personality in this. And this is another thing that for our work we talked about is that if I met you at a party and I said, "Hi Chris, what do you do?" And if your first answer is I'm a radiologist, then that's your personality. That's a very big part of your personality because you just told me that you're a doctor, and that's the first thing you told me. But if your first answer is actually I'm a dad, and say no, but what do you do for money? Then that's different. That's a different question. Then you've got
Yeah.
to answer the question. But if the first question answer is I'm a radiologist, then that's your personality. And what I feel that most of my content outside of teaching is try and remember that you are a person, you're a personality, right? Like try and to think about what that question, answer that question is if it wasn't being a radiologist doctor. Maybe you play chess in your spare time, clarinet, whatever, piano. Those are interesting things. Everything else is kind of that's what you do to get money. It's not you, is it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, I think radiology and this job is just a tool, I think, to obviously get. I mean, you've got to do a job. Obviously, you can't not do a job, but I don't think you should base a personality on it and your life on it, and just be okay with the fact that it might not work out. I mean, most people do. My wife used to work in the city, and she people got fired left, right, and center. It was crazy. Like I remember
Mm.
She went in and literally her boss got fired and got taken to his office. I had to watch him take his stuff and then walk out. And he'd been there for 15 years, right? So
Imagine,
that's
yeah,
what everyone else is living. So we just, as doctors, I feel like we don't like insecurity,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I think life is not like that. It's not always secure all the time, could be okay with
Uh,
that. How about you? I think you're a bit more
yeah, I mean
pessimistic,
the
maybe.
so for AI, I'm pessimistic, but more for the radiology perspective. I don't have a concrete timeline, but I think it's inevitable that the job market will suffer, and that the value that we, with our interpretations, can provide will get reduced. Whether it's completely vanishing or not, I think it's one thing, but definitely the value will reduce. The number will, the number of doctors or radiologists required will at least stay same or go down. I think it's just a question of when. So I'm a bit of this in this scenario. So some of the entrepreneurship also for me is the diversification, getting skills,
Hmm.
being able to, if suddenly like the radiology foundation model 2.0 comes along and suddenly they can solve all of these, or let's say 90%. As a teleradiologist, I'm going to be out of the game probably fairly quickly, as they
Hmm.
will have the ultrasound interventional guys, so they will still be in place. So I think it's about positioning for radiologists, where you want to be, have a hands-on subset of skills somewhere to stay in the game for longer. I think that can help. But yeah, I have this pessimistic view of AI. But then on the other hand, I love AI because it also opens opportunities for me that were not there before, like creating apps, creating like tools and such. And I love playing around with these kind of like things. So that's one of my new hobbies is vibe coding. I'm totally into vibe coding. This is,
Hmm. Yeah, same.
I
Are you a
just,
Claude person? Are you
no,
a
I'm
Claude
used to
person?
Replit, Replit.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, fine.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's the one I use, and it works great. I think 4 weeks ago I started an app. Now it's in the App Store. It's totally crazy. So you can go very fast. It's very simple. One time I did a online RPG for kids,
Oh,
just to play with my own kids. So I'm
yeah.
having all these ideas, and I think AI gives really endless opportunities. And I think if you want to go into a side hustle, for many people, it will involve probably AI or something like this in one way or the
Hmm.
other. Yeah, that may be something to consider for people who want to do something. I wonder if, because we want to finish after
Yes. Let's see.
exactly
Any
1 hour, if we have
questions?
any
Yeah.
questions. Yeah.
Are
Do we
there
have
any
a chat?
questions?
Is
Yeah, I
there a
can
chat?
see Q&A. Any Q&A coming up? I don't see anything
Oh,
Q&A, and I don't see anything in questions. Hmm. Oh, here we go. We do have a question. Uh, What would you do if you were a registrar in your third year, with potentially 35 years as a consultant AI, inevitably taking a lot of means to a good quality of life that radiologists enjoy? A lot of alternatives are ultimately non-radiology based. Is the answer about monetizing your personality and what is fun to you outside of radiology? I find it tricky because the natural disposition of a radiologist, why people do radiology is often at odds with what we need to do now for longevity. Did you
oh,
get that
there's a
question?
lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's a lot
see it.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
you
a
see it.
lot.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
I think maybe I can start with the what do you do for fun outside of radiology? That's maybe easier to answer. I started a few years ago with miniature painting, so
Oh,
that's
I love
something
stuff.
I
Yeah.
picked up in Nottingham, like painting miniatures because it's something that's not in front of the screen. So that's something that I enjoy and learned watching YouTube videos on how to do all of this stuff. So that's kind of like one of my hobbies, not the gaming, but more like the painting itself.
Hmm. Someone's asked me. I'll answer your question in a second, Mohammed. I just do a quick one. What trouble did I get into in podcasting? So much, man. Okay, so obviously in podcasting, I ran a podcast called Two Medics a while ago, and I mean I think I'm pretty much the same as I am anywhere, and I'm kind of quite open and honest about things. But I think one thing I learned from talking to so many people is about understanding people's lived experience, and if I haven't lived their experience, I can't really say things too much about what they I shouldn't make comments about what they're up to and stuff. And I think one time someone mentioned we're talking about radiology and someone talked about things that are in dodgy places. And I think we all know what that means, like something that shouldn't be in a place that it shouldn't be. And I must have laughed, and I think we talked about other things that we'd seen in dodgy places. And then people started being very upset with me, saying that I wasn't very sensitive. And I realized that, yeah, this is a dangerous game because I had no malice in what I was saying. And now looking back, that, yeah, I probably shouldn't. be talking about like such sensitive subject. I didn't even know it was a sensitive subject, to be honest with you. But yeah, that was a bit of trouble I got onto on podcasting. Social media is a strange game. I don't know how you found it, Chris, but I have found it a little bit scary sometimes. Um, yeah,
I
too
I think you
careful about
just
what
need
you
to
put
be
out there.
authentic. You just be authentic. If you have an opinion, even if it's polarizing, you just stick with it. Don't pretend, don't fake it. And then, yeah, I think, like you said initially, people sometimes, especially when it comes to social media, and if somebody wants to start like a personal brand or something like this, because that's something that's very valuable to have, like an audience or starting to build up a personal brand. First of all, most people will not care about what you do, or at least many people that you even know, like they don't even know you have a YouTube channel, or they will not watch it.
Mm,
And also, I think you need to learn to just ignore like the naysayers, like you know, maybe they're just it's envy or yeah. I don't. I have this saying, lions don't care about the opinion of sheep. I don't know where I picked this up,
that's a nice
but
one. Yeah, that's a nice
yeah.
one.
So you just go out, do your stuff. As long as it's you, I think that's
Mm.
important. Like don't fake to be a person online that you're not really.
Yeah, I think the thing I learned from that one was that be open to learning. And so I could have doubled down and be
Mhm.
like, no, 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 you guys are wrong. You're the problem, not me. But I realized that, as someone who's trying to grow as a person, you can't be like that. And you've got to see it from other people's point of view. And I think actually, ultimately, people appreciated that. And then and like I said,
Mhm.
like we said earlier, the people forget so quickly. Like within a week or two,
Yeah,
it was gone and
exactly.
finished.
Yeah.
Um, I'll try and get to Mohammed's questions. There's a couple more here, but I want to get so 35 is consultant inevitably. Okay, so taking a lot means a good quality of a life for a radiologist to enjoy. And I think this is something I do want to say is a good friend of mine who might be here today says something that there's no inherent meaning in anything. And I found that really interesting because I never thought of it like that because we have an inherent meaning about what a consultant should be, what a doctor should be,
Mhm.
what you should get paid, what kind of life you should have. But actually, if you turn back and say, actually, there's no inherent meaning in anything, it means that there was no meaning in that. So there's no one's promised you certain things that you think are going to be this way. So just because you did 20, 40 research papers, it doesn't mean you're going to drive a Rolls Royce. That's not how the world works.
Yeah.
And so I think that just understanding that, look, things are so malleable and things are changing so often that it's going to be, you shouldn't have like big expectations. Just sort of have an idea about what you want and then kind of do the best you can to get there, but don't really peg yourself on there. And a lot of alternatives ultimately a lot of alternatives are non-radiology based, and this is why I mentioned the idea of like aesthetics medicine. Like I've noticed a lot of people do that, and I can see why. It kind of does fit in with the side of medicine kind of things, a little bit less sciencey. You are kind of running a business. It won't be just aesthetic, it'll be loads of little things that people want doctors. And this is what I say about
Mhm.
reporting radiographers. I don't know if you get them, Chris, but I don't have a problem with reporting radiographers, but I think that people always have a premium for seeing a doctor for the foreseeable future. If you said to someone, I will give you a report from a medical student, a registrar, a reporting radiographer, and a consultant, most of them are going to go for a consultant because they feel as though there's a value in that. And so when you're a doctor or a third year doctor, don't underestimate like how valuable you are just having those titles to your name. And I think that if you go into non-radiology things, it means more like the comedy thing. If I turn around and decide, you know what, I'm going to go to comedy shows and I'm going to go for it, but also said I'm also a doctor, that suddenly means something different. Oh, the guy's also a doctor and does comedy. It
Mhm.
means that like you've got something on top of the so many things you get up to. Is the answer monetizing personality? Not necessarily. One thing I'd say, I don't know if Chris agrees, is that what I found is that as a doctor, you got to be the best of the best. You got to try and be the best because you're trying to help someone ultimately at the end of the day. But when you're running your own business, you don't necessarily have to be that good at it. Like you don't have to be amazing at it. It just has to do well enough, right? And there's so many mistakes.
Yeah.
My team who are here, they know the number of mistakes I've made, the number of WhatsApp calls I've missed, the meetings I've not turned up to. I get it. I'm bad, but I don't have to be that. It's my business. I don't have to be that good at it either. As long as it
Yeah.
works and as long as it kind of trundles along, it's fine. Um, yeah, and I think they said I found it tricky with the natural disposition of a radiologist. So this is the last thing I say. The comedy course taught me that when you think about someone funny, like I'll say, oh, I like this comedian. Chris might say, no, but I like this comedian. And you'll say, oh no, but I like this comedian. And what you'll notice that every single comedian's got their own kind of way of doing things. And that's actually very true with life. Like you don't have to be a certain personality to do radiology. You don't have to be a certain personality to do something else. Like everyone's kind of got their place. You've got to just sort of make it
Mhm.
your place once you're there. And so you could be very boring, as a comedian. You could stand there and talk very straight faced, dead in the face. But as long as your content's good, people will laugh. But then you can be really active and crazy and laughing and jumping around, and people will laugh. And so I think that yes, people have got a natural predisposition for a certain personality a certain way, but that doesn't mean it won't work. There's no
I mean,
single
the
thing that
one thing
will work.
I want to say there is just because you've been in a certain way in the past, it doesn't define your future. And there is you can change. There is nothing stopping you from changing, picking up, like you said, like a new skill, like learning something new. And I think it comes down to learning. And I love that that we come back to learning because that's the first step you want to do. Like if you have, and I think one of the other questions, like some anonymous attendee asked, like what's besides education and YouTube, can a doctor potentially do as a side hustle? I think you just need to learn, like start with a book or like audiobook. Podcasts are a great way to get into a topic that maybe starts, pick up your interest. And then sometimes you will have an idea, then you try it and you fail and you try again. And every time, like you said, this is basically our journey. You learn new skills, you build up, and then you don't need to stick like one time or two times. Maybe you have a little side hustle, but even if it's a couple of hundred, in a month, then it's already good because you have already side hustle, and you make, as long as it makes fun or it's fun for you to do so, then I
Mm.
think that's a good starting point.
Exactly like you're saying about funnel. Like for those that don't know what a funnel is like you've got a whole load of people that find you on YouTube. How do you funnel them into your business? And I never knew what that was. I never knew what a funnel was. But just like being open, and I often tell my wife, like, sorry, but I'll say to her, for the next 3 weeks, I'm gonna be very, very obsessed about this specific topic. So right now, I've got a half marathon to do in September, which I've never run more than like 100 meters. So I told her, I'm gonna be very obsessed about running right now. For the next few months, I'm gonna be obsessed. I'm gonna watch videos on it, gonna get lots of stuff to do. I'm gonna get a treadmill. I'm gonna be talking about it a lot because I'm going to pick up the skill. And the only way I know how to do it is to get obsessed with this thing. And that's the only way I can get good enough. And I don't need to be good. I don't need to be the best. I don't need to win this marathon. I just want to be good enough to be able to finish it. And I think that's
Mhm.
what exactly what you're saying. Like I think we underestimate how much we can pick up even now. So someone says, I feel disabled. I can't do anything outside of radiology. There's a really good book called Be So Good They Can't Ignore You. And it talks about passions and identifying what passions are and what passions are not. And I would highly recommend it. But the idea that, you know, someone might say, "Oh, you're really good at radiology. You're made." But is that true? Was I made for radiology? Or did I get good enough at radiology? It's not that I was made for anything really. It was something that was there and then I did it. But then if you said to me like, "What's my passion?" My passion would be, well, I guess my passion would be watching Netflix, but I can't monetize Netflix, so I can't do that. But you see what I mean? Like people say, "Oh, you should." There's a really funny meme going around. Get rich doing your passion. It's like that doesn't always work. You can't always be rich
No,
from your passions, right? Otherwise, I'd
yeah.
be,
I think
just
the
sitting
best
there watching
example is like
TV.
the people who put the dead people to the ground. Like, what are the undertakers? Like, they don't have a
Yeah, yeah,
passion for this, but it's a business. Like, it's a
yeah,
job for them,
exactly,
right?
exactly.
So yeah,
Talking about
yeah.
choice to leave the hospital and be the boss yourself, what do you think about the risk of reducing your learning opportunities? Usually in hospital, you can find a rare case and possibility to talk to clinicians. How important is to work and network? I think that in radiology, if you're talking about radiology, I think you underestimate how much knowledge there is out there for free. Loads of videos. Chris has got his own teaching platform, just to plug your one. If you're interested in learning new things about MSK, I've got my teaching platform. But there's so many teaching platforms, there's conferences to go to. There's loads of things you can get involved with if you want to learn about things. And like I said, I mean, for me anyway, life is more than the hospital. There are so many people to meet. Like let's say you want to go rock climbing, go rock climbing, go to a rock climbing club, meet people who do rock climbing. You start to notice that there are so many crazy cool people out there that are doing some wonderful things. And I feel like we shouldn't peg ourselves to be around doctors all the time. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I agree. It goes into the next question also. Prerana is asking, where do you find the time to get started with a side hustle, having a full-time job, research going on, and even having a family?
Hmm.
I think some of, I think we underestimate maybe how much time we spend on our phone or watching Netflix, etc. Like even if it's 1 hour, 2 hours a day, you get done so much if you just switch it out. Like you don't have to do everything at once, but if you want to learn something new, read a book. Like you said, use instead of watching Netflix on your travel back forth from work, you start listening to podcasts. I do the same on my school run. And so you pick up these things and you have to just replace things that are not really adding anything really except like entertainment. Like, if you watch this series, it's nice. I like watching Netflix too. But is it really necessary? Like if you have the ambition to maybe change something in your life, then yeah, you have to put something on the side. The day has 24 hours. And I think we spend a lot of time for, browsing, Instagram or Facebook or whatever you are using.
Mm.
There is a lot of time to gain. I think we probably underestimate how much time we actually waste with silly stuff.
So true. I think one of the guys I know at the gym, his name's Marky James. If you look him up, he's a humongous guy. And he said, "Don't tell me you don't have time for the gym. Let me see your phone and let me see how much time you spent on YouTube today." And I was like, "All right, don't look at my phone. Don't look at my phone." But it,
Yeah,
but it was so true. Like he had a point. Like if you actually looked at my phone and you see how much time I'd spend on the other things, then you'd notice, okay, what if I took half an hour of that YouTube time or that other time to just read something about the subject or take a lesson? Like these days, you can take literally a 40-minute lesson on how to play chess. Just do it. 40 minutes of your day
yeah.
is gone to learn chess. Great, awesome. So there's so many things that you can get up to, and
Mm,
I think what you're saying and I'm saying is that you actually have more time than you think, and there's loads of place to squeeze time out. Like while I'm running now, I listen to a podcast about something or listen to a book by a guy called what's his name, Homozy. Anyway, I can't remember his name off the top of my head,
yeah.
but yeah, he's you know him, yeah, he's
Alex
quite
Hormozy,
good.
yeah,
Alex Homozy, yeah, he's
he's
cool. Yeah,
very
so I listen
famous.
to
Yeah,
his podcast. I listen to some of his stuff while I'm running and learning, and what I'm really looking for when I listen to like hour long parts, if I take one thing, then that's worth it. Like I might have heard
yeah,
some different
exactly.
things about lots of things, but one thing might change something for me. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
Besides education, some more side hustles for radiologists. I'll tell you a story. This is quite funny. I met a guy that basically went to his local gym and he said to them that he rented an ultrasound machine and he told them that he would do ultrasounds, but not diagnostic ultrasounds for MSK because he wasn't MSK. He would measure the amount of subcutaneous fat someone had underneath their skin over weeks and put it onto a graph. He did quite well. It was actually surprisingly good hustle.
that's a
And
good
then,
idea. Yeah,
yeah, it was good. Did well. And then he was actually starting to put a graph on like how much the muscle was growing. And I was like, come on, man. And he goes, yeah, obviously it's like an error of like zero point 0.5. So obviously I went on the above and slightly went above as a week on. I thought, all right. But I mean, but I'm not saying like do that, but I'm saying like sometimes you got to look around and just see what's happening.
yeah,
And you'll notice that there's
exactly.
something out there that happens. What would you say your biggest mistake or failure along your journey, and what do you learn from it? Any particular regrets specific to radiology? Okay, failure is one I know plenty about, so I will go into that. Chris, do you have anything that you want to talk about with your biggest mistake or failure along your journey?
I think my biggest mistake or failure is that I'm not really outsourcing, and that's probably where you're better at it than I am. I try to do most of the stuff myself. I have help, but most of the stuff I try to do myself. I find it difficult to let go, not so much of the business side, but more like of the education side. I'm still working on this to be better in delegating and doing that, because otherwise you just become an employee of your own company, which basically is ridiculous because you want to go away from being employed, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
that's my, I think, the biggest regret, that I didn't start working in this direction earlier.
Hmm. I think with me on my journey, I feel as though I feel like with training anyway, it's a bit of a game, and I probably should have seen that. I don't know why I didn't see it, but for us, I don't know what it's like for yourself, Chris, but you have to get a certain number of assessments, and if you get a certain number of assessments, then it's okay. So let's say they had six assessments, I would go get six, and then I'd get told off for going and getting six. So like, listen, if you want me to do more than six and just raise the minimum, what's the issue? But I didn't think that actually this is a game. Like if they asked to do six and I do 12, then there's no way they can say I didn't do enough. I did plenty. And so I think when they make such a clear game, I should have been better at understanding like what was required of me in these particular situations. And maybe that's why I probably wasn't as good of a registrar as I could have been because I just didn't really care about whatever this game was. He said to do 1,000 X-rays. I did 998. And they said, oh, why didn't you do the last two? I was like, I don't know why I didn't do the last two. But what I should have done is done 1,500. So there's no conversation to have. So I think identifying the games where they are and playing those games where you have to. And I think there's a really, I think, yeah, there was Floyd Mayweather, for those that don't know, was a boxer, and he was going to fight Manny Pacquiao a long time ago. Manny Pacquiao was a very good fighter, and Floyd Mayweather was insisting on 70% of the purse for this fight. And everyone's like, "What are you doing?" And it's Manny Pacquiao is one of the best fighters in the world, and you're asking for 70%. And although I'm not a big fan of Mayweather in terms of his personality and things, one of the things he did say was, "Look, there are times in life when you are the B team and someone's the A team, and you've got to do what the A team say. But right now, I'm the A team, and you've got to do what I say." And I feel like the same as when you're in training, when you're working for someone, you have to recognize when you are the B team and just do what you got to do. But then there'll be places where you are the A team. So Chris, you've got your own business, you're the A team. People got to do what you say. You got to people do what you say, and you got to do what you tell them to do. And so just knowing where that is was something I wish I understood. I was the same guy in and out, just sometimes some consultant will be, oh, did you see the size of the lymph node? And I'd be like, I don't care about this lymph node. And it's just the worst thing to say to someone. Don't say that about their job. But I thought I was being funny. I shouldn't have done that. Looking back on it. Um, so here we've got a reporting radiographer. I'd be interested to hear what transfer skills from radiology you feel are most valuable in leadership, AI, education, industry, or innovation roles beyond clinical practice. Chris, do you want to go for that one?
Transferable skills. I think when it comes to radiology, the reporting and the analysis of the images, I don't see that as like a lot of transferable skills that go there. I think we have on top of that, communication is an important skill that's transferable, like communication to other uh, members of the clinical team. AI is something you will learn on the side and education, but the radiology skill itself, I don't think it's really transferable that much. Now, you might argue, okay, you are analytical, you have a systematic approach, etc. But I think that's just something that every doctor really has. And I think the brain work we do with analyzing the images, it's not really like a transferable skill, I believe. So maybe I'm mistaken there, but that's my understanding.
I think for me, I feel like I read somewhere that all you have to do is read a book and you're already in the top 5% of the knowledge of that particular subject. So I think for someone, let's say you're a radiographer and you did one course on AI or one course on any of these things that you're interested in, suddenly you're a radiographer who's also got interest in AI. And you'll see that, I'm sure, Chris, you've seen other people, radiologists, who will say radiologists with specialist interest in artificial intelligence and speaker on artificial intelligence. But when you actually look, they haven't really done much, maybe beyond the
No.
course or attended something. And when you really talk to them, you realize that you don't know what an LLM is, you don't know what different kind of versions of um, AI there are. So I don't understand how you're doing the talk, and you know what I mean. So I think that you don't have to do that much to be able to kind of be in a like a high proportion of population on a specific subject. So if you're already a radiographer and then you pick up one of these things and learn something or go to a small course on that thing, then there could be somewhere that you can go into on that
Or
on
you can even
AI.
write the book, like you just write the book, then you're even in the top 1% or one to
Exactly.
0.1%, right?
Yeah, and on top of that, you become the authority person because you wrote that book that
Exactly.
one time
Yeah.
about this particular thing. It's the way the world works.
Yeah.
Um, I'm approaching CCT, and the plan is to do teleradiology and build my startup, as I feel I can't do both as an NHS consultant. Do you think it'd be a disadvantage of my reporting by not going for NHS consultant? Is there anything I should do to mitigate this? Oh, I think we might come from different aspects of the spectrum here, because Chris, you're pure telerad, and I'm 90%.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, what do you think?
I think so I would say it's probably good to have at least 1 or 2 years as a consultant. This does not necessarily is not NHS or whatever. I think generally being a consultant in a hospital setting will help you understanding how the teleradiology can provide value, what they actually need from you. Because if you go straight from residency into teleradiology and you never really had to put your name under the report and defend it in an MDT or discuss with the clinicians on site, I think you're missing a little bit of the game. So it's a dangerous jump. At least 1 year, I would advise to stay 1 year consultant, maybe do a tele on the side on the night in the nights or on weekend, and then see how this goes, and then you gradually shift into this. That would be something that I would advise to, because I didn't go straight into teleradiology. I wouldn't have stood a chance. Like I had a couple of years as a consultant already before I did the move in 2018.
I think for me, what I'll say is a combination of the two. And that's pretty much what I do, in that I have an NHS job, I have a consultant job, but it just depends on what you think an NHS job is. And all I'm going to say is that if you walk into a department, you'll see a consultant who's very, very busy and they don't have any time. They've got multiple meetings to go to, multiple MDTs, multiple phone calls, and lots of places to be. But also in that department, there is someone that turns up, you barely know they're there, and they go home again and they make about the same. And so you can be anywhere along that line. And so what I'm saying is that you can use this to do whatever you wish, just choose wherever you want to be. But there may be a way to do both, a bit of everything, in my humble opinion. Um, Sorry, Chris, I know it's getting late. Should we do two more questions and that's it, I think. I'm passionate about teaching, but I'm always thinking of if everyone teaching online, what would be the selling point someone can present differently? Um, Chris, what do you think? Selling differently
Yeah, I
when
mean,
teaching.
I think you don't need to try to copy anybody, or, I think it comes back to the thing. You just be yourself. If you like teaching, just do it, and then you see what comes out of it. You never know. Like,
Mm,
as we've, I've seen this many times when with my fellows also. Like, some people, they try other things. Sometimes it's the connection between the coach and the educator and the student that is on a good level. Sometimes it doesn't fit. So some people need maybe a different approach. Maybe you start having or picking a niche that is not very crowded, or you just have to start. Like, if you never start, you will never know. Like, just go for it. If you like teaching, just do it. Or, if it's
mm,
radiology, it's radiology. Maybe pick a special topic, start out with something. If you're just like generally educating, maybe teach something else that like, people, if you watch on
mm,
YouTube, people, they have, you can teach the piano, you can teach painting miniatures, you can
yeah.
literally teach anything on YouTube if you're passionate about it. So it's nothing stopping you. It's just starting is important, and consistency. That's the two things. And if you enjoy the process of doing these videos, etc., if you got not a lot of response initially, who cares? As long as it's something you like, and if it turns into something good. If it doesn't, then you can pivot at any point. That would be my
Yeah. I
thing.
think what I'd say to someone is that, look, the way I see it is that let's say you walk into a party and there's 100 people in that room. Would you be able to make a friend, maybe two friends, three friends? Let's say you manage to get a group of five people. That's like 5% of that room or something, right? So it, what you could do, what I try and think to myself is that when I start making videos, like, look, the world's a big place. There's going to be 5% or less of that entire population that's going to resonate with what I'm talking about. There has to be. It's just a big, big world out there. If I can make friends at a party, then I should be able to make some friends or acquaintances on the World Wide Web. And so I think that's the way to go. In that eventually there'll be something about you that you don't even know about that there'll be some people that resonate with, and some people say, I can't take that. Like some people I know will watch my videos that I can't even see his face. He's got too big of a nose. And that's fine. But be some people who say, I don't care about how big his nose is. I actually like what he's talking about. He's quite interesting. I'm going to listen to him. And I think that's what Chris is saying. Just go for it because
Mm.
the world is such a big place. You don't need many people to be able to like vibe with that will just kind of get you and you get them back and
Yeah,
then it
that's true. And
works.
I
It
think
just works.
it's also not like the numbers, like, where people, you don't need to get like thousands or millions of views. And I don't think you need to think about monetization if you would start out with social media, because the chances are there's not gonna make you're not gonna make any money out of that initially, anyways. But, eventually, maybe you have a good connection. Maybe you start out then with like one-on-one coaching. Maybe it's local in your city where you can have meetups. So there are many different ways how you can spin the coaching thing,
Mm.
and you just have to start. I think that's really it.
I think for this one, I'm going to be a little bit, I'm going to avoid slightly. It says, do you have any tips and tricks for a young female radiologist? I started with a side hustle, but often people don't take me serious. So this is where I learned my big lesson is that I don't have the lived experience of being a young female radiologist. So it's going to be very hard for me to really understand what that is like and people not taking you seriously on that regard. But as a person who does any sort of side hustle, I think one things I feel about Chris is that is quite brave. Like he doesn't seem to be held back. Like he's happy to try something and it's fine. Like it doesn't matter. And if people don't like it, it's great. I'll move on to the next thing. Happy to try the next thing. And I've joked with you, Chris, that often I'll be sitting, oh, that'd be a really good idea. And then I look online and Chris has already done it. So, okay. Chris has already started a community. Great. Okay. Maybe I'll do an app where it helps you, write better reports. And I look online. Oh, Chris has already done it. There you go. Maybe
Yeah,
I should move to Abu Dhabi. And then there's, oh, Chris has already done it. There you go. So,
yeah.
it's just being a bit brave and just knowing that people are not going to like everything about you, and that's cool. I mean, the world is so
Yeah,
big.
that's totally okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that maybe on the female side of things, it's women often, and so Nina, I think she's one of my fellows. Women, so generally, and I know this also with the discussions that I have with my wife, she's a doctor as well, are very self-conscious and think maybe more than men do what other people think about them. It's maybe just the female nature. And I think that's probably where a lot of self-doubts, etc., play into this, that might stop you from, or makes you overthink things and basically hold you back. But I think it's fine if some people don't like what you do. Like really, so that's why I like the saying, like lions don't care about the opinion of sheep because you just do your thing, and then maybe it's not as bad as you think. You know what I mean? Like we don't know like the backstory, Nina, exactly here, but um, if they're not taking you serious, like I would wonder, like, why would they have to take you serious, or like, are these people that are not like acting in your favor relevant to your mission? Maybe they're not. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
And if they're friends, that maybe then they're not that good friends. I don't know. Like,
It reminds you of Gordon Ramsay. Everyone knows Gordon Ramsay. He used to do this TV show
yeah,
about like turning around a restaurant. And I remember the episode because he was turning around this restaurant, and the guy who owned it said, "No, no, no. But what about my old customers? Like, what am I going to do about my old customers? If you do this, my old customers are not going to be happy." And he goes, "Listen, your old customers aren't paying the bills, so you've got to forget about your old customers and move forward."
exactly. Yeah,
And that's
exactly.
so true, isn't it? You think, yeah, you're so right. Like, yes, you can get so fixated on the people that and trying to make them happy and make sure that they're okay with what you're doing. But if they're not getting you to where you want to get to, then they're probably the wrong people. They're not your crowd. You've got to move on. You've got to
There
find
is there
something
is
else
this
that
one
works.
UK doctor. He's doing a lot of YouTube, but more like work productivity, etc. I forgot his
Oh,
name. He's very
Ali
famous.
Abdal. Yeah, Ali Abdal. He's
Yeah,
very
Ali
good.
Abdel. Yeah,
Yeah, he's
exactly.
very
Yeah,
good. Yeah, yeah.
and in one video he said like literally people don't really like we ourselves we wonder like how do we look in camera, how is the sound, like, etc. And then his friends and family, he was wondering like what do they think about me doing this, and literally nobody cared. Like, so I found that quite insightful. Like he doing these videos, and literally people don't really even notice. Like it's happening online, but they will not find you necessarily. So I think it's we do overthink too much. I feel
Hmm.
if you like to try something out, just do it, and yeah, that's it.
I think it's getting late for you. There is one more
Yes,
question. Let's make
yeah,
this the last one. Let's make the last one. Okay.
yes,
So,
yes.
whenever
I
the
agree. I
topic
agree.
is side hustles or starting any kind of business, the whole discussion always seems to revolve around social media, YouTube, personal branding, and putting yourself out there publicly. But what if you're more introverted? What if you don't want to build a business around your name or expose yourself online? What then? Hmm.
Okay, I mean, to be honest, I am an introvert. I'm pretty good introverted, to be honest. Like that's I don't think that's something. It can be an asset also. So I don't think that's a reason not to do social media. But you know, because you're not necessarily live out there. If you do them, if you would know like how many takes sometimes I have to take for a video, etc., then you would maybe understand. But of course, it doesn't always have to be your face. Like if you don't want to show your face, you can also try to get something else. Like just as an example, I did a parent app for myself mainly because school with 3 children is very overwhelming and too many birthday parties, too many everything. And so I was always missing stuff. And so I built an app just for myself, basically, with AI, where I can organize the school events better. There's no face, there's no name of me. Like it's just an app. It's not a good business because nobody's using it except me. But I have
I'll
I
use
have
it.
one
Send
I
it.
have one I have one
Send it
person
my
though.
way.
It's actually like it's $3 per month. So I've got one subscriber there. But I mean, you have ways today to not expose yourself, especially with AI, to get stuff. You can even, and this is crazy, but if you dig into this, you can make an AI avatar, like just some fake person that actually behaves and speaks like you do. Nobody will ever really notice it's you. And you can even film that, and then another person is showing stuff. So there's crazy
Yeah, I've seen
stuff
that.
out there.
Yeah.
So just really try to find out about AI as much as you can. And you can literally get so much done. Like, or even start helping other people, like,
Mm.
build a skill like email writing. Imran
There's
mentioned email writing. Do an email course and write
Yeah,
emails for
exactly. But you know
somebody.
what? There's a really good guy called Daniel Priestley. He's written a book which I'd highly recommend. And one of the things he talks about is how his big skill is that he's got no skills. And so if he wants to do anything, he has to find someone else to do it. And that's really interesting, isn't it? Because actually he's become very successful, by outsourcing absolutely everything because he can't do anything. And now the only reason he's doing social media is because he wants his business to do better. And he's very open. Like, I'm only here because I want to make money online. But it's so interesting that actually being unable to do anything is kind of a skill sometimes to just say, look, just want to build, get someone better than you to do this, get someone better to do this. And of course, there's
Mm.
going to be some level, things will always cost. Anything that you want will always cost either time or money. That's what I always think. Like people will say, oh, if I want to get into shape, how am I going to do it? It's either going to cost you time and money or both. That's what it's going to
Mm.
be. There's no two ways
Yeah.
about it. There's no way you can get a good physique without putting one or both, or if not all of those things into this particular thing.
Yeah,
Same with these
exactly.
things. But the idea of, I understand what you're saying, that a lot of side hustle business, when you go online, they're all saying the same things. But what you don't realize is like a proper underworld of people who you never see. They're writing PDFs, they've got masks on their faces, they're doing animations, they're doing like something you don't even think about, like you're saying about your app with parenting, right? That's a nice little niche. It's something that you've had problems with and you made the little thing, you've sorted it out. The barrier of entry for you to create that isn't as expensive as it used to be. You can get it online very, very quickly. Try it out,
Mm.
maybe sponsor someone, see if it works. And if it doesn't work, move on to the next thing a couple of weeks later
Exactly. Yeah.
because you haven't put your life into this. And that's the whole point of side hustles. Side hustle, right? For me anyway, I don't like to say medicine's a hustle, but it is a kind of hustle. Medicine's my job. I do my job, and the side hustle's on the side, right? Obviously for me at some point like I started doing other things and then one got bigger than the other, but the point is like they're always on the side. They never took over the main hustle. My main hustle was to become a consultant, become a doctor, get that job, get stability, get something going so that I've got something on me with me.
Mm.
And in the background I had all these little tiny things I was trying and watching fail and trying again and watching fail. Genuinely every time I started a new website I was like, please let this be the one. And I watch it crash and burn.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just the way it is. You just got to think about things differently, and especially in this day and age. I think
Yeah.
we need to stop. I think it's going to be late
Yeah.
for Chris. I've got to
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
Chris,
It's
I think I speak
11:30.
on everyone's behalf. I'm very pleased to finally get to chat to you. I
Yeah.
think
Likewise.
talks like this don't happen very often. I think this is a very sort of underworld thing. It feels like a bit of a taboo subject, talking about things outside of medicine, especially when you're
Hmm.
doctors on the internet. Like, why are you doing this? And I think that people need to. Well, I mean, I hope they know that there's more, that life is so vast. There's so many things you can do. Just go for it. Enjoy it, you know. Be crazy. Think about the craziest thing that you want and just see what happens. You never know. And let us know if it works out.
Yeah. Yeah. There's nothing
Cool.
else to add. Okay. Thank you so much also
Excellent.
for doing this and maybe do this in the future
All
again.
right.
I think it's an important topic. And yeah, have a good night, everybody, and see you next time.
All
Bye
right then.
bye.
See you. Bye.